Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Jackson, council members. We've got a short agenda. The first item is just a couple project updates. So just briefly, wanted to give you a quick update on the Azalea Park Children's Garden. The wrap benches, those have been installed. The stage and the seating for that have as well. The main play piece, which is the large turtle, that's going to be delivered this Thursday, Friday. So we'll work on getting him installed as well. Hopefully you guys saw the email from me this morning, but we do have the ribbon cutting scheduled for December 6th. If you guys have any questions about that particular project, I'd be happy to answer those for you. Okay. The second item is the Sawmill Fitness Stations. This project is going through the Somerville Parks Foundation. On the screen is what one station would look like, the proposed station. The second, there are 4 wooden stations along the Sawmill Branch Trail. We are renovating 2 of those. So the one by Gahagan and the one just past Newington towards Oak Brook. We'll start with those 2. One would look like this. It would be installed on concrete, and then the other one would have similar equipment. It just won't all be connected. So with your guys' approval, we'll go ahead and move forward and start getting that equipment ordered.
Is this from the corporate donation that we received that funded this?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is proposed new projects. And so I'd like to talk to you guys tonight about a disc golf course at Brown Family Park. The photo on the screen is of Brown Family Park. It's just over 7 acres. So what we'd like to do is install a 9-hole disc golf course. 2 or 3 of those holes would be kind of on the periphery of the tree line, and the rest of those holes would be in the woods. Disc golf is great if you guys have never played because it's very cheap to start. All you got to do is buy a disc, and anyone, any age can play. We would install concrete tee boxes, and we would work with the disc golf club here to help us lay that out. This project would be dependent upon us getting PARD funds through Berkeley County. We will know, they're meeting October 28th. So we'll know if those funds are available, but this project would be dependent upon that funding. And those PARD funds would pay 80% of this project. The project in its entirety is estimated to cost $10,645. Any questions for me?
Great job.
And do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we move to the council.
So we're getting adjourned. We don't.
I make a motion that we approve and move to motion. I'm sorry, approve and move forward to council as well.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
There a second? Do I hear a second on adjourning?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Call the Planning and Development Committee to order and turn it on Ms. Schuler.
Good evening. First item on the agenda is proposed amendment to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 13, Section 13.3.4, Tree Protection Board, subsection B, membership, to increase the membership from 5 to 7. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on September 16th, 2024.
Are you going from 5 to 7 so that you make sure you have a quorum each meeting?
This was at the request of council from previous meeting to increase that number. It would help with a quorum. So we staff certainly supports the request, assuming we can find qualified people to fill it.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
I'll
I'll
second,
move it to council for approval.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Let me ask
Oh,
a
sorry.
follow-up. No, it's okay. We moved on past the vote, but let me ask a follow-up question, Jesse, if I can.
Mhm.
Do you feel like there are situations where our arborists can handle the approvals without taking it to the full committee, tree committee?
There are, lots of situations where he does handle approvals. It varies depending on the, what's being requested as to whether it needs to go to tree protection board or not.
So currently what has to go to the committee and what can he just approve?
So if someone's requesting to remove grand trees, and they're not dead, diseased or dying, and they're not, and there's the potential that if it's a construction project and there's potential that the structure could be shifted to save those trees, then it does have to go before the tree protection board for approval. Or if somebody is impacting the critical root zone of a grand tree greater than a third of the critical root zone,
Mhm.
then it does have to go to tree protection board.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is proposed amendment to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 13, Section 13.3.6, Historic District Board of Architectural Review, subsection B, membership to increase requirements for members living in the historic district from 3 to 5. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on September 16th, 2024.
This was, once again, this was discussed last month at the council meeting for, to increase that number to 4, from 3 to 5. So
And
I'll hear a motion for that.
I make a motion to deny it.
Okay.
I'll make a. I'll second your motion to deny it, but also will amend your motion and take it to full council for their approval.
I'll second that amendment. And
And I guess I'd just like to say, the thing we voted before this was for all the boards to have 7 people.
Mhm.
And then the next line gives the historic area total reign over anything that happens downtown. And I don't think that's right. All this belongs to all the town. And so I would like to stick with the 3. And with 3 people from the historic area, they only need to convince one person. And if their idea is any good at all, they're gonna get that. So I think 3 is great. It gives them almost a quorum. They convince one person. It's done. Plus it leaves us on the outside of the historic district to be able to appoint somebody. And I think that's important too.
Yeah, I don't disagree necessarily, Bob. I just think that's a decision for the whole council to make.
Yeah, oh, I agree. We'll just pass it forward with a recommendation to deny.
I think the motion now is to go with the approval.
What-
Or do you want to make it? do you want to
Simply,
amend
the
to
motion is simply to take the matter
full
to the
council?
full council.
Okay, with no recommendation.
That's
Gotcha.
correct.
Okay. All right, I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next.
And the last item on the agenda is a proposed amendment to the Sheep Island Development Agreement by and between HIC Land LLC and the town of Somerville for that property known as Sheep Island located off Drop-Off Drive in the town of Somerville, South Carolina. Amendments include adding the Whitfield Company LLC to the agreement, removing the requirement for a master property owners association, and removing the automatic renewal of the agreement. This item does not require planning commission review, and the required public hearing will be held prior to second reading by council.
Okay, there's a lot going on there that I'm not smart enough to understand on my own. Why would we remove the requirement for a master property owners association?
Because you have two separate, you have the owner that owns the residential portion, and then you're going to have an owner that owns the commercial/industrial portion. And so they didn't want to have create a master property owner association over the two separate sections of the development. They will still have property owner associations for each one.
Separate though.
They will have separate ones, but it does include language. I don't know if you had a chance to review the whole draft, but it does include language to address stormwater. And
Okay.
they will have a joint agreement between them to make sure that stormwater is covered, maintenance is covered.
Is that the same reason to remove the automatic renewal?
The automatic renewal is something that, our town attorney has requested to be removed because it's actually against state law to have an automatic renewal.
Good reason.
According to GW.
Should traffic be part of that master plan along with stormwater?
So that's traffic is handled on as different portions of the development, develop. It is already handled in the development agreement already. So they're not changing what they're doing with traffic.
Still doing impact. Analysis
Correct.
and all that with
And
traffic.
based on the portion that's, so like when the neighborhood portion comes in, they update their traffic study and whatever requirements they're required to do, they'll be the ones who are responsible for doing those mitigation requirements. Does that make sense?
Sort of, kind of, except it all goes outside of that, you know.
Right, it's
much
outside the
traffic are
limits of their
going-
development, but as each project for that development comes in, they'll update their traffic study to determine what they're responsible for doing in terms of traffic improvements. And we'll hold the developer of that portion to those improvements.
Thanks, Jesse.
Guess I'll make a motion to move it to full council.
I'll second.
Motion to move to full council. In the second, any discussion, other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those
you.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's the only time I beat you.
Well done.
All right, it looks like we have everybody here. I'll go ahead and call the Finance Committee meeting to order and turn it over to you, sir.
Right, good evening. Here filling in for Rhonda while she's on her European vacation. Her loss, I guess. I'm going to hit a few of the high points here of our monthly financial report here. Current period, we realized $1,370,500 in revenue, bringing our year-to-date total to just over $5,078,000. For our expenditures, current period, $3,013,000 expended, bringing our total to just under $11 million for the year. One outlier there, I'd call your attention to is building and grounds. You'll see that number is a little bit higher. That's one of our semi-annual insurance payments hit for that, which is why that's a little bit higher. For other income, there was just a transfer in from H-Tax, you'll see, of $308,000. That's just the standard transfer there. Then on the next page for property taxes, you'll see we realized about $280,000 for this past period, bringing our total to $870,473 year to date. License permits and fees, just under $374,000 this past period, bringing us up to $1,567,800 for the year so far. State revenues, total income for the month, $417,227. Year to date now, $1,443,750 for that.
Dan, I got a question real quick.
Yes,
This is just from my education. How do we go negative, in revenue on real property taxes? $72.49. Is that, am I reading that right?
Yes,
But
so-
is that like a refund?
yeah, there are some refunds that,
Yeah.
that get processed and,
Okay.
this time of year, we haven't hit
Right.
our
No, yeah, I mean, I
Thank
knew
you.
that. I knew we hadn't started
So,
collecting property tax yet,
anomalies
but
like that sometimes
yeah,
go up, but
I was just curious in where that comes from.
Yep.
Thanks.
yep, you're welcome.
I had a question,
Yes.
if you don't mind. Under the expenditure summary, non-departmental at,
Mhm.
current budget at 250,000. And year-to-date actual at 254,000, so at 102% of budget. Can you tell me what's typically in that category?
Well, the 250,000 is the, funds for the DCCO homeless shelter.
Okay,
Yeah, and then the remaining 4,155, I'd have to look into and see what exactly that was for.
and then just one other question, that you were at property taxes. On the next page, that heavy, equipment rental tax.
Mhm.
We're at 41% of the budget. Is that pretty common? Do we see that normally every year? Is that kind of consistent or?
Yeah, I believe that's very consistent with what we typically see for that.
So we rent most of our equipment. We don't own it. Is that right?
Well, this is a program that's, a state collection program for that tax
Okay, I see.
for users.
Thank
They
you
collect
for-
it and then disperse it to us for that.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, so, Parks and Recreation revenue. You'll see, we have about $37,000 for the current period, bringing our total to, $140,272 for the year. And then miscellaneous revenues, $236,200 for the current period, bringing our total for the year to $973,219 there. So total revenues for the general fund for the period, $1,678,782. And our overall year-to-date actual, $6,003,025.27 there. All right. Now you're taking a look at, impact fees here. What you can see here is for residential impact fees, our year-to-date total is $215,831.50. Our year-to-date commercial, $1,248,982. And as far as expenses, there's, one for this current period, and that is for the Gahagan Parks and Recreation Building. And now we're at, local hospitality tax. You see our current period, $538,888 taken in, bringing our year-to-date to, $1,614,000. Well, I think
Did,
this-
under miscellaneous revenues, the SRO grant revenue, we didn't budget for that, but we are receiving income for that now, even though it's not budgeted. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Under miscellaneous revenues, is that just extra revenue we're receiving, not previously budgeted
So
for?
that is a, direct reimbursement for expenses. So it's a dollar for dollar match that
Okay.
we're getting back there.
I see. Thank you.
All right, I believe that leaves us with, stormwater, last one here. And you'll see that the current period was just under $109,000 taken in, bringing our total for the year to $678,338. All right, and that's all I have. If anybody has any questions?
Thanks, Dan.
All right, thank you.
Excellent job. I just want to point out, since we're one quarter in, I always like to remind ourselves, we're one quarter in, but, we're almost $6 million under, from operating revenue compared to expenditures. So we're 6 million in the hole. So just as we get to the end of the year, I like to remind us that our cash flow is extremely important. So we got to end on a high because we start down and low. Excellent. Thank you.
Item B is authorize the mayor or town administrator to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office to allow sworn members of the Somerville Police Department to assist their agency with off-duty security coverage for the 2024 Coastal Carolina Fair.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this.
A second.
All right, a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Discussion of proposed amendment to the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget, which is updating the appendix of the budget to include the current ICC building valuation table, which was updated August 2024.
I'll make a motion. We approve that.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Request from the Police Department for retiring Somerville Police Detective Stephen Platt to be presented his service weapon, a Glock 9mm duty weapon serial BMW W916.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Under surplus equipment, request a surplus from the Stormwater Department, WM92 and 1998 John Deere 160 excavator. The excavator has already been replaced with the purchase of a 2024 Hyundai excavator, and the funds will be deposited to the Stormwater Fund balance.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to point out that I arrived at the town in 1996. This was the first piece of equipment I bought. So we have squeezed every bit of life out of this machine.
I'm extremely impressed, Councilman Halter, that you recall that. Well done.
My first purchase.
Yeah, you always remember.
All right, any other discussion?
I'd just like to say that I really like to see that while we're surplus in that those funds are going back to the stormwater fund balance. And I know we're about to move on to the streets department in the future. I know we can't now, but as we move on and we're working on our capital plan, it'd be great if when we surplus other items like that from the streets, that those same surplus funds would then go to the streets department fund balance as well, or capital fund balance.
Well, the good thing about stormwater is a separate fund balance. That money has to go back to stormwater, but your point is taken for the street surplus.
Yeah, thanks, Councilwoman. All right, any other comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Request from the Streets Department to surplus SM 130 John Deere 6120M, year 2016 with 3,545 hours. An S90 Chevrolet C8500 debris truck from 1999 with 213,812 miles. And an S101 Freightliner debris truck from 2011 with 135,106 miles.
I'll move for approval of the surplus.
Second.
All right, we have a approval in a second. Any, or a motion in a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
I make a motion. We adjourn.
Second.
Hold
Nope. Yeah.
on just a second. I get,
Okay.
I'm supposed to take a vote there, but if you would rescind your motion,
I
that would
will.
allow for the town administrator's report. Would you rescind your motion?
Yes,
Oh, thank you so much.
something new.
Yes,
Something
brand
we're doing
brand
after
new.
we adjourn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. Something new, but hopefully not terribly frequent. Want to give you all an update on something that Lenny and I have been working on, and Sean as well. And this is in reaction to the data breach that we suffered earlier this summer. A couple of important things that we need to do right away that I want to inform you about in terms of moving some funds around within the administration department in particular. One of the things that we need to do is purchase some software and some hardware that is important to ensuring the security of our network and our data going forward. And then also hire a network security administrator. You all just recently, or as a part of the new budget, we hired a new network administrator, and that's somebody who can help Lenny and Sean on the day-to-day answering troubleshooting and solving problems. But we also need somebody dedicated to network security whose primary responsibility is that for the entire town, the police department, fire, general employees, town hall, wherever. And so we don't have those items specifically budgeted, but we do have contingency funds in the administration budget that will allow us to accomplish a little bit of both. So I want to inform you that we're going to be moving forward with hiring a network security administrator starting in January, which we would cover half of that salary for half of the fiscal year. And then we will also purchase about $30,000 worth of data domain software and all the hardware that's a one-time expense that we would need in order to get that data domain software up and running. There are other expenses, about $60,000 worth of expenses that we also need related to the data protection, but we're going to hold off on that until the fiscal year that starts next July the 1st, and we'll bring that to you for your consideration and your approval. But if I didn't want you to hear about these things that we're going to make moves for, we don't necessarily need any action on your part at this time. Just wanted to keep you informed that that's what we're doing in an effort to ensure that this don't happen to us again going forward. Happy to entertain any questions or any technical questions you might have for Lenny and Sean.
Expenses like that, like the $30,000 expense, do we typically depreciate that? Is that one large software expense, or is it a lot of small expenses?
So
And will we?
the largest part of that expense is in the hardware that's going to have to be purchased. And of course, that will be depreciated. And then the ongoing recurring costs are for the subscription services and the seats that are part of that. And those are very small. They're less than $5,000 a year all in. So it's a very minimal expense. It's just this startup cost that is the higher amount on the front end.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Answered mine.
I just wanted to say thank you all for being very proactive. Lenny, Sean, Mr. Slatton, thank you very much. Based on the feedback we received from some of our partners, we are woefully understaffed. Are you anticipating this is step one of more, or is this kind of?
Yeah, Mayor, ideally, we would probably hire another network administrator in the new budget year coming up, but we'll prioritize and do that as we can, obviously at your approval. But that's certainly something that we'll bring to you come budget time in the spring. Yep.
All right. Thank
Other
you.
questions?
Any other questions?
One
Yep.
last thing I'd like to just say to everyone is just thank you all so much for all the support and kindness everyone has shown to me in the town and council. It means a lot to me, and it's helped get me through, and I just really appreciate all of you. So thank you very much.
All right.
I'll move, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.